Hey guys, welcome back. It's Sunday morning. We ran into a couple issues yesterday. One, we tried to bleed the slave with it out of the vehicle, and the plunger actually shot off the front. So I bled the pressure out, reset the washer that holds back the seal on the front of it, and we're going to attempt to bleed it today back in the car. So don't bleed your slave outside of transmission. It could be a problem. Secondly, the shifting assembly that came with the swap kit was actually for a Z3, which would put the shifting, the shifter back here. And so that was a roadblock. Now we have to order up a new shifter assembly and potentially get rid of the Z3 style. Although I did install a new bushing. And what I did in the beginning of the week was I pumped this up with some polyurethane from Quickcrete. It's a sidewalk and concrete repair. It comes out very thick, and you really want to let this thing sit for a week because now it's at its maximum hardness and it's pretty stiff. We're gonna get a lot less movement in this now that it's packed in with the polyurethane caulking. Okay guys, so since we had a couple setbacks with the shifter linkage and the slave cylinder, which turned out to be a non-issue, we just rebled the clutch and everything is tight. What I did to check it was I put it in gear. I had Noah hold the clutch in. I spun the gearbox in the back, and then when he let the clutch go, it locked up really nice. So I guess a road test is going to be the only determining factor to make sure that's okay. But in any event, we're going to get this mess cleaned up in this garage. I can fill the differential. I can still drain the coolant. I can still run my reverse wires up from the trans tunnel into the cabin. We got some rust proofing and caulking to do, clean all of our heat shielding. We have some brackets to make, so we still have a lot of stuff to do while we're waiting on the correct parts. So yeah, I guess we're gonna get into that stuff. We'll see how much we can get knocked out today, and we'll have a couple time lapses, and yeah, let's get to it. Okay, so our reverse light harness is gonna plug right into this guy. And then what we'll do is we'll send it up through here, which is where the automatic shifter selector came through. And I'm gonna have to try to find a grommet or figure out a solution to button this up so we don't have anything spraying in here. Okay, so we simply pulled our wiring through after we pulled up this little piece of carpet through the factory hole. And as you can see, we have plenty of slack, which is great. And our braided covering actually covers it all the way through into the cabin, which is just exactly what we wanted. Now we're going to inspect that we don't have any interference with the drive shaft or gearbox. Okay, so you can see here that we do have a little issue with how close the wire is to our rotating assembly. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this factory clip off, and I'm going to try to remount it up here so we have a straight shot, and then we can get in up over top of the drive shaft. All right guys, so we're going to fill the diff up. I just wanted to give you a heads up of what we're going to be using. We have this funnel with a strainer built in. It's got an on-off valve, and then we have the portion that's going to be installed into the differential. We're going to hold this up with some tie wire so we can hook it underneath where the exhaust used to be, and we should be able to fill this up with it still in the car. We're going with a Valvoline High Performance. This is made for LSD rear ends. It's an 85/140 weight, pretty heavy duty. And then we have our our hex socket, which we're going to use to take off our cover, our fill cover. And I want to say that this is a 14 millimeter. The problem is that when this goes into the rear end, you're not going to have enough room for your ratchet. So what I like to do is put it in and back it out a little bit, and then we can throw a 14 mil open-ended wrench right on it, crack it, take everything out, and then we can back it off by hand. Okay, so underneath the car we have our tube. I decided to eliminate the strainer and the container. We have it tie wired up just barely enough. So what I did was I got as much fluid out of this as I possibly could, which is approximately half. I'm gonna use the other bottle to drain another half into there. And then after that, what I'll do is I'll combine the two bottles, get this one filled up to the top, and then the remainder, we should get the rest in. We can't drain these all the way because we don't have enough angle up here for the bottle, but half is definitely a good start. That's exactly what I was looking for. All right, so the 2 bottles of gear oil seem to do the trick with the amount of waste we had. Once it starts leaking out of your fill hole, you know you have enough. So we're gonna let the rest just drain out of our tube, and we're gonna go ahead and tighten that back up. All right guys, back underneath in the trans tunnel, you can see that we have sheet metal with a seam that goes all the way around up into the transmission area to that heat shielding. So what I want to do for good measure is I want to wipe all this down with alcohol, and then we're going to run a bead of caulk in there. That way we don't have any moisture getting into these pockets right here, because we did eliminate all the sound deadening in here, which was preventing the salt and the water from coming up and hitting it and coming right down and protecting this area. You can already see a little bit of rust starting to form right here where this bolt was once located. So yeah, we're gonna wipe this down with alcohol and get some caulk all in these seams. Over here, this is the bearing, drive shaft bearing support. We're gonna get some in there, and then a little bit up into the firewall area. Before we step outside and start cleaning up all of our heat shielding, this is the final piece. This one is not made out of the insulating material. This is more of a skid plate for the fuel filter. So you can see it, must have scraped at some point. So what we're gonna do is, because this mounting point is shot anyway, we're gonna nip this off. We're gonna wire wheel the whole plate, and then we're gonna give it a wipe down with alcohol and get some paint on it. Okay, so we're all wire wheeled up, wiped it down with some alcohol. So we're gonna do 2 coats of rust reformer on this particular heat shield. And then we're gonna go over to this heat shielding, which is all just light gauge bent aluminum. And we're gonna scrub all the black off and get this nice and clean. But first, let's get the paint on so we can wash and we can recoat at the same time. Put some undercoating on. Everything's nice and uniform, going all the way down the tunnel. We're gonna have to fill this in. That was a gouge inside the sheet metal, but we got that rust reformed and threw a little undercoating on it temporarily. And then yeah, we just traveled all the way down each side of the tunnel, and then where we had the scrapes on our rails here, we grinded those down with the wire wheel. We hit it with the rust reformer, 2 coats, and then we went ahead and we just undercoated it. All right guys, so that's gonna do it for this weekend. We got the engine tightened up. It's looking good. It's looking way better than it did. I'm really happy with the way it's coming out. The undercarriage of the car is looking phenomenal compared to what we started with. We're gonna put a little bit more focus on this side, maybe even make a block off plate where the secondary air pump went. We got our pedal assembly tightened up. We got our master in. We got our clutch blade, custom clutch lines, some brackets. Yeah, filled the diff. We brought the wiring up. And yeah, we had a good weekend. So I thank you guys again for joining me. And we'll see you again next weekend. Hopefully we can get that shifting linkage in the mail and get this thing on the road. Sorry I couldn't get a road test this weekend. We had a couple speed bumps, but that's the way it goes. But anyway, guys, we'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye.